Today we're going to watch and react to a video called Froster Free Shuts Down as California Minimum Wage Rises. As a disclosure, I'd love for everybody to make a minimum $50 an hour, but as anyone knows, that's not economically feasible. We see what happens as soon as they raise the minimum wage up to $20 an hour. You start off with mass layoffs, and businesses are forced to shut down. So a lot of small businesses operate on very small margins. Nobody ever thinks about small business when they talk about increase of minimum wage. What they are thinking of is huge corporations like McDonald's or Walmart. And these corporations, it doesn't matter if you increase the minimum wage because they will just shoot up prices. And then what's the point of increasing minimum wage if all the prices go up? None of these corporations ever lose money when wages rise. What happens is they increase prices to counterbalance that profit loss. Whenever you see these headlines saying, Jeff Bezos has record profits at Amazon, that doesn't really mean anything because first off, as inflation goes up, the value of the currency goes down. So of course, every year you're gonna have record profit. Even if you keep the same exact profit as last year, or the same exact profit margin as last year, because of inflation, you're gonna be making more money on paper, but in reality, you're actually making the same exact amount as you were before. So that's why they increase that amount. And if they pay their employees more, then they're gonna increase it even more, and they're gonna show record profits. When in reality, they're probably making the same amount as they were before, but the headline reads, increased record profit, which is kind of misleading. When you think about wage increase, you're talking about, on average, you go about 2% raise each year. The normal wage increase per year is about 2%, and that's to counteract inflation. So back in 2012, for example, I was making $8 an hour, which is what the minimum wage was back then. If you want to say, let's increase it by 20%, 20% sounds like a lot. Well, 20% of $8 an hour, that $8 comes out to $9. That's $1 raise in 10 years is what the 2% means. So the fact that we even had within 10 years, it go up to 15, you went up 150%, which normally it should have been 24%, but you went up 150%. Oh, what is 100%? First off, 100% means double. So if you have one item and you have 100% more of that item, you have two items. So 100% is double. So if you're not making double the amount of money you made 10 years ago, then you're actually making less money. If you made $50,000 10 years ago, and today you are not making $125,000 a year, you are actually losing money. And that's what this is showing, this minimum wage increase. If you want to be fair and spread that across everybody, then people making $50,000 10 years ago should be making $125,000. If they're not, then you increasing minimum wage that much screws over everything, because now they're going to counteract that cost with food prices. They're going to counteract that with product prices. So that means the guy who made $50,000 a year, if he makes $70,000 this year from 10 years ago, he's net negative $50,000. So if you ever wonder why everything feels like it costs so much, that's why. Because you making more money doesn't actually mean you have more money. All it means is that boss has the same amount of money and you have less money, because now you get paid more, but everything costs twice as much. Let's just get to the video.
Rising wages, California's fast food workers started earning more money today, 25% more than they were making yesterday. The pay raise could mean higher prices at some restaurants and has reportedly prompted at least.
In one day, they made 25% more than they did yesterday. 25%. And remember, the average annual increase is 2%. So the fact that they jumped from 2% to 25% in one day, that's cutting off 12 years of inflation they just skipped. Which, when you think about it, if they skip 12 years of inflation just to keep up, what does that mean? What does that mean about the rest of the economy? What does that mean about the cost of everything else? Why is everything 12 years ahead than where it should be? That doesn't make sense.
One Central Valley business to shutter.
Some of the people who worked at this Foster's Freeze thought it was an April Fool's Day joke until they saw the close sign for themselves and reality sunk in.
I was like, okay, April Fools, be for real. Not April Fools. I realized that she was not joking. I drove straight over here and got my last check.
They wanted an increase of minimum wage, and what they found out was that the true minimum wage is actually zero because you don't have a job. So now these people who were all excited about making $20 an hour now are making $0 an hour, and they have to go find another job. Where are they going to work? They're going to go to another food industry that pays $20 an hour? Good luck with that, because there's something called supply and demand. When there's a high supply of workers and a low demand of workers, you have no bargaining power. You come in there and you get whatever crap job they give you, and you have to just accept it, or you go somewhere else. And right now, everybody's going to be shooting for those $20 an hour fast food jobs. Everybody. So if she shows her resume saying, oh, I worked here, that means nothing to them. These owners are going to see your resume and throw it on the desk with the other 2,000 resumes that all say the exact same thing. Everybody has the exact same experience. For her getting a job, she'll have to go switch fields entirely, or really go work in an industry that doesn't pay $20 an hour. So now she's actually making less. Whatever they're making, they're going to definitely not make 20. They're going to be dropped down to 15 or 12 or whatnot. And unfortunately, this is the sad reality that a lot of people are finding out.
Phone call from her general manager informing her the location would not open for business again. How does that feel to show up and there just not be a job?
It's jarring. It's like, okay, you can go home, and then it's like, I thought I was gonna work today.
It's hard to take it when there was no notice at all.
The closure comes the same.
Here is a little insider baseball to how owners think or how managers think. Most of the industries, you don't get a warning for getting fired or laid off. You don't, especially getting fired. If you get fired, there is zero warning at all. Laid off, some industries give you a warning and they'll give you severance package. Those are like tech industries or certain other corporate industries. Fast food, no. Even construction, good luck with that. There's no severance packages. There's nothing. What happens is if they give you a heads up, let's say they have a meeting, even if they give you 1 day heads up, obviously you'd like a week, but let's say 1 day. Hey, it's Friday morning. By the way, you're not going to have a job on Monday. I'm closing it down. Today's your last day. Please try to serve the customers. I'm sorry, we're shutting. Try to look for another job. What are you going to do on Friday? You are not going to do your job. What you're going to do is you're going to start looking for another job, or you're just going to slack off because you don't care anymore. That's why owners and managers don't tell you that you're going to get laid off. Because if they do, they know you're not going to do your job because they still need you to do your job. They still need to make money. They still have a business to run. So even if the business is closing down, they need you to make them money before it shuts down. There's customers to tend to. And in the construction, they have deadlines to finish. And they can't just let people know because they won't get finished with the job. And then they'll have to rehire them. So, of course, they're not going to let you know ahead of time.
Same day, California's minimum wage for fast food workers rises to $20 an hour. Economic experts have been predicting closures and layoffs in the months leading up to the hike.
Most of the time, if not all of the time, the business owners have to pass those cost increases on to the consumer.
Exactly. This guy's spot on. What he just said is 100% accurate, and it's the hard truth. You're going to pass that increased labor cost on to the customers. And you are maybe working at one of these places. You may think, look at this raise I'm getting. Wow, I got a 25% raise in 1 day. They're going to increase that cost. So if you don't eat at that place, maybe you don't eat at whatever place you work at, or you don't consume the products at what you work at. But remember, every other place has this same exact raise. So they're increasing the prices. So what you do is you have your extra $20 an hour, and then you go take that to another company that did the same thing, but they increased their prices. So what did you really make? They increased their price by 25%. Maybe they have a hamburger meal or whatever. You get a hamburger, fries, and a drink at $8 yesterday. Now they increased it by 25%. So now it's $10. You made an extra 25%, but they also increased it. So did you actually make any dent? Did you actually get any money? Because now everything is just as expensive. So your cost of living goes up and your services go up. So you're at the same spot. Your check looks bigger, but you use a lot more of it. It's a placebo effect. So it makes you feel like you make more money when in reality, you don't. What it really does is it causes your future to be robbed. So in the future, you're not going to work at these jobs forever. You shouldn't. If you work at these type of low-end food service jobs forever, those aren't permanent jobs unless you're going to be an owner of one of these franchises. That's the only way. If you're just going to be a low-wage worker forever, we need people like that, but you don't want to do that. That's for younger people getting into the workforce, trying to figure out how to get a job or try to get some work experience under them. That's what it's for. You have your lower class, which is usually poor. Then you have your middle class, and then you have your upper class and your rich or whatever. So all that does is increase your bracket up, but if the cost of everything else goes higher, you actually are the same, but the people up here in the middle class didn't make a 25% raise. They made a 2% raise. So in reality, they actually come back down. What you're doing is you're grabbing the guy who's climbing the ladder instead of, I don't know, helping him get up the ladder or climbing alongside him or climbing with him. You're pulling him down just so you can get higher. But you don't go higher because when you pull him down, you're still at the same spot because he comes down. You don't go up. You stay at the same spot. He comes down to meet you. So you feel like you're getting higher because he's lower. But in reality, it's not. And the rich person, the person who owns it, he's still up there because it doesn't matter. He passed this cost on to you guys, onto the lower classes. So now nobody wins. The only winner is the owner. Right now, you're expanding the class divide, the class division. Now you're not going to have everyone rich or everyone middle class. You're going to have everyone poor. You're going to have most of the people poor, and then you're still going to have that top 1%. So what happens? If everyone gets brought down, you might as well be communist. You might as well all make the same amount. And when you do that, you're not going to have ambition to become something else. You're going to say, oh, well, there's no point in trying harder, working harder, because I'll never make any more money, so who cares? So then that halts your economy. There's no way you get rich, really, unless you do illegal activity. All right, let's finish this video.
At this Foster's Freeze, the assistant general manager tells us that was supposed to be the plan: increased prices and shortened shifts.
Did you hear what he just said? The plan was increased prices and shortened shifts. So instead of you working an 8-hour shift, you now work a 4-hour shift or a 6-hour shift. So he decreases your shift by 25%. Let's say 6 hours. He decreases it by 25%. So you just got 25% raise. You get paid more, but you work less, but that cost actually went up. So you still don't make, you're still at making the same amount as you were before because he decreased your hours. So you're making the same exact as you were before. You work less, great, but you make the same amount, but the cost of everything went up. So you're still negative. It's not even like you're breaking even. Now you're still negative because you work less and you make less money.
He had said, like, all right, on the schedules, we're going to run smaller crews. We're going to do a little bit of shorter shifts. People are going to get their hours cut a little bit, but we'll be able to make it work. We're going to raise some prices, but, like, we're good.
That all changed Monday morning. Navarro says the owner told her he just couldn't afford to pay the new minimum wage. We called him to ask about the closure.
When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hi, Lauren. This is Nick Garcia calling from ABC 30.
At the time of this broadcast, we have not heard back from him.
That's just, you'll see that a lot with the news. They'll call somebody or they'll email somebody, reach out, and if they don't get a response, what they say is, oh, they make it seem like a bad thing. He's not responding to us. We tried to reach out to get his opinion or to get a comment, and he declined or he didn't answer. No shit. Of course. Why would you answer? If you own a company and you have to close down, or you close down for whatever reason because you don't want to pay more money, or you'd rather just close that section and open a business or focus on your franchise or business in another state where it's cheaper, you just close that down and say, forget it. I don't want to deal with this state anymore, or I don't want to deal with this type of industry. What do you gain from talking to the media? All they're going to do is just accuse you and blame you. The media, the public and media already hates this guy. They're already demonizing this business owner as a piece of crap, and oh, he only cares about himself. He didn't give his employees warning. He's such a bad guy. We hate him. Burn him at the stake. Lynch him in front of the mob. Well, yeah, there's no point in talking to these people. You gain absolutely nothing from interacting with them. All they're gonna do is demonize you and make you out to be like the bad guy, which it sucks. I know it sucks, but in reality, only person looking out for you is really yourself. So if you're a business owner, if you get fortunate enough to become a business owner, yes, try to look out as much as you can, but do not sacrifice your profits or sacrifice your business for your employees. You all should be a team. And if your team somehow isn't working, or if outside government laws cause your business to fail, well, there's no point in trying to help your team if your business is going to fall. If you are going to go broke trying to make sure everyone's happy, then what's the point? Why are you going to work 16-hour days trying to keep this business going when the person you hire who doesn't have any kind of ties to the business, who's probably only going to work there a couple months to maybe a couple years at most, has no investment in the company? They're probably making more than you. When you open a business, the first couple months to maybe in a couple of years, you're breaking even on a lot of things. So you don't have really a profit, and you're working more hours. So you're working all day. All you're doing is thinking about work, thinking about how you can make more money, thinking about how you can budget. You got to manage people. So you're really not making any money. You're probably making $20 an hour because you work so much. Maybe you pay yourself $50 an hour, or you pay yourself a salary. You don't pay yourself hourly. You pay yourself a salary, so where it would come out to 8 hour shift, $50 an hour, but you work 16 hours. So now you're actually making $25 an hour. And then this person comes in who has no ties to your business or no incentive to make your business profitable. They come in making $20 an hour. That doesn't really seem fair because you invested, you put all this time. Construction's not like a typical fast food place. Yes, fast food has its ups and downs. Food industry has its ups and downs depending on the customer basis day to day. Construction has its ups and downs as well. You're gonna get a large project, and that large project could last a couple months to a couple years. And within those couple months or couple years, you will be guaranteed to have a job. Once that job site starts slowing down, if they don't find other work, if you're a core guy, they're gonna try and scramble to find you other work. But a lot of times people complain about the construction industry that, oh, you just get laid off all the time and yada, 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 you have to search for work. Yeah, because that's how the jobs work. With construction, there is a bunch of companies that bid on all these jobs, and you only have a need for certain companies for certain jobs. So this company might get this 200 million job that lasts a couple of years. Well, what about this other company? Well, this other company didn't get shit, or it gets a 20 million job. Another job might open up in the middle where it's also a 200 million job. Well, that other company doesn't have any more workers to work at that 200 million job. They want to bid it, but they can't. And that job maybe starts 6 months before the other job ends. So they can try to bid it, but they don't have the manpower to stock it. And they can't just take away from that other job because they need to finish it. They have 6 months left. They can't just bail out. So what happens is another company will get in who has the manpower, and they'll take over that job. So there you have another company already on that job for 6 months. The company who had that other job, it closes down. So now a lot of those guys are getting laid off, and now they're looking for a job. Well, you have this other company who has all this other work. You can just jump over there. I know you don't like to hear that you have to jump company to company, but sometimes that's really for the better. And you can probably make more money because you can actually give yourself a raise every time you jump a job. Instead of getting that 2% annual raise, you can get that $2 annual raise. You can get that 20% if you want, that 20 or 10% raise just by jumping to a different job. You can make $25 an hour at this other job. And then when you decide, hey, I'm gonna get laid off here, or I got laid off here, let me go find work. You can go to them and say, hey, I want $27 an hour. Whenever you get laid off, you shouldn't be surprised. I mean, obviously it's a shock. Nobody likes to be laid off. Nobody likes to be fired. It sucks. But number one, you should always be looking for a job. You should always be applying for places because you really never know. You never know when you're gonna get laid off because, like I mentioned, they're not gonna give you a heads up. So if you are always applying, if you get laid off, you probably already have something on the back burner. And even if you don't get laid off, if you just throw out an application somewhere, you might get a great opportunity to go to this huge job that pays this crazy amount of money with incentives. Or you might be able to get a job that actually is a higher position than one you normally were at. So maybe you're an apprentice and you maybe know you're gonna be an apprentice at that same company for another year, but you might get an opportunity to go become a journeyman at this other company. So of course, take that. Don't just wait out at this other company just because they hired you. No, go follow the opportunity. Don't follow the money because the money on paper, the money looks good. You can go to this job that is $5 extra an hour, but if it's only like a 2-month job, why would you leave that? Why would you go make $5 more an hour at this other job that doesn't last that long when you know this job you're at is gonna last a couple more years? Don't just jump for the money. Jump for the opportunity. If you can jump to that 2-month job where you make $5 an hour, but you're in a higher position, take that because the position is really what matters, not the money. People want to see positions, not money. What you can also do is a lot of these times, these companies have meetings that you can go to. And at these meetings, they'll show you bids they're working on or jobs they're trying to get. And if you realize that they didn't win a certain job, you can preemptively figure, oh, I know in my head that they didn't win this job. So that means in a couple months, when this job starts slowing down, they don't really have a big job to go to. So I know I'm gonna start looking. I'm gonna start looking now for that big job that they lost because somebody won it. Somebody won that big job. So you might as well start looking now for who won that big job and start applying to go over there. Going back to the video, I don't understand why a lot of these food industry places are concerned about increasing the wage. Most of these people who work here are still in college. They're not even graduates yet. And if they are graduates, they're just working here temporarily until they can find a higher paying job. So why are you concerned with this industry getting more money? Why it's so short-sighted to want to increase the minimum wage to a temporary job you're at. So unless your degree is business and you plan on opening your own chain, that's the only reason you'd stay long-term into food industry. But even then you wouldn't want to increase the minimum wage because then that again, that takes away your overall profit. And it's actually going to be a lot harder for you to maintain your business because now you can't hire as many people. And when you don't have as many people, you're going to put more stress on the small crew that you have. Yes, the crew is going to make more money and they're going to be a little happier, but they're going to be overworked. You're going to have one guy running the registers and making food, or you're going to have one guy running the registers back and forth, and you have one guy making the food, and then you're going to be there making the food too, and it's going to be a huge mess. You're making food, which means you don't have time to look at all the other duties. You have to make sure the business is kept clean. You got to make sure you have a good back order. Any materials or any food you need, you got to do inventory. Yes, you also have to deal with inspectors who come by every now and again, and then you have, on top of that, you have all your business fees, and you have to make sure you're following health codes, and you have to make sure customers aren't getting too rowdy, and it's a mess. You also have upkeep on the business. If something gets damaged or you need to fix something, you got to focus on, oh man, how am I going to get the money to fix this because I'm not making that much money. So that also cuts in your cost. Moral of the story, I don't think the government should be telling any employer how much they need to be paying somebody. I think it should be between the employer and the employee to decide what their wage or what their labor is worth. Of course, some people are going to get screwed over because they don't understand what their labor is worth. But that's why it's important to do research and figure out what your labor is worth and figure out what the industry pays so you can correctly talk to the employer and he'll give you a fair wage. He's not gonna, some employers do lowball you. Yes, a lot of them like to give you a fair wage. Again, they don't want to overpay, especially if you're new, because they don't know who you are. You could be a piece of crap. You could be lazy. They don't know this. They are just going off your word. They're going off your resume. And if your resume is empty, they definitely have no clue what type of person you are. You've never worked. They're not going to put their business on the line for a random person. You wouldn't. If you have business, you're not going to just see this young person straight out of college or straight out of high school and just say, yes, I will give you anything you need. You can have my business. No, because that's your livelihood. That's your money. You need to look out for yourself, first of all. I don't like government interference. Government should be telling people what they should do. You increasing the minimum wage actually hurts everybody. It hurts people who struggled and had to go through that time. And I don't like the talk where, oh, I struggled, so should you. No, of course you want to make sure people don't struggle as much. You want to make it easier for people, but you don't sacrifice everything you've built to make it easier. You aren't helping them, you're hurting them by increasing the minimum wage. Because when they get to a position or an industry that pays a little bit more than what they were making before, they're not going to really notice because the cost of everything else went up. So really, they're not making anything. Yeah, I just thought I'd make this short video. That time of recording is like 35 minutes long. Jesus Christ, I gotta edit this. But yeah, this is a big topic, and I definitely know I didn't cover everything because there's a lot that goes into it. I don't know everything that goes along with this. I know basics. This is basic economy 101. This is basic business 101. I'm not an expert, but hopefully you did learn something. And now you know why increasing the minimum wage actually doesn't help anyone. It actually hurts them.